It's amazing to think we share our bodies with trillions of bacteria. And I don't mean the kind that makes us sick.
Right.
We're talking about the good guys, the probiotics. They're supposedly working hard 24/7 to keep everything in tip-top shape.
Yeah, it's a fascinating area of research. People are really starting to pay attention to the impact these microscopic communities have on our health. I mean, for good reason.
We received some really interesting research from a listener about this inner world, this microbiome, and I'm excited to do a deep dive into it with you.
Absolutely. Happy to break it down.
So first things first, what exactly are probiotics, and why are we hearing so much about them these days?
Okay, so probiotics are essentially live microorganisms, mostly bacteria and sometimes yeasts. And the idea is that when we consume them in adequate amounts, they actually offer health benefits.
Okay, so it's like a win-win. We give them a place to live, and in return, they help us out.
Exactly. Think of it like a mutually beneficial arrangement. We provide the accommodations, and they contribute to our well-being.
Interesting. But I have to ask, I've seen articles talking about thousands of different bacterial strains. So how on earth are we supposed to wrap our heads around this whole inner ecosystem? It seems incredibly complex.
Oh, it definitely is complex. You've hit on a really crucial point, which is that we're just starting to scratch the surface of understanding this. But you're right, this bustling community of bacteria and fungi in our gut, what we call the microbiome, is mind-blowingly diverse. And to your point, it's far more than just a digestive aid.
It is. I mean, I knew it was important, but what else is going on in there?
Well, emerging research is suggesting it plays a significant role in our immune system, how our metabolism functions, and potentially even, and this is where it gets really interesting, even our mental health.
Wait, hold on. Mental health. Are you saying my gut bacteria are influencing my mind?
It might sound strange at first, but there's a growing body of evidence pointing towards a really powerful connection between the gut and the brain. It's what we call the gut-mind connection. Basically, these bacteria in our gut, they aren't just passively digesting our food, they're actively producing substances that can impact our mood, our appetite, even how we respond to stress.
You're blowing my mind right now. So you're saying there could be a connection between the bacteria in my gut and things like, say, anxiety or depression.
You got it. There was this one study, for example, that found that individuals with depression actually had lower levels of certain beneficial gut bacteria compared to those who weren't experiencing depression. Now, to be clear, this doesn't necessarily mean that the bacteria caused the depression,
Right.
but it does highlight the intricate relationship, the interplay between our gut microbiome and our brain chemistry.
It's incredible. But I have to say, it's also a little overwhelming.
Right.
I mean, with thousands of these little guys in there, how do we even know what a healthy balance looks like in the first place, let alone how to get there?
That's the million-dollar question, and it's exactly why this whole world of probiotics and gut health can feel a little like the Wild West right now.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It seems like everywhere you turn, there's yogurt claiming to boost gut health or a new probiotic supplement popping up with these big promises.
Right. It's a booming industry, for sure. And listen, while some people might sing the praises of probiotics, the reality is the science is still catching up.
Okay, so you're saying it's more nuanced than just popping a pill and calling it a day.
It's not quite as simple as that. We have to be a bit more discerning. Just because a product boasts billions of live cultures doesn't automatically translate to noticeable, tangible health benefits for everyone who takes it.
So basically, grabbing just any probiotic supplement off the shelf might not be the magical cure-all people are hoping for.
Exactly. Remember how we talked about the diversity of the microbiome, how each strain has its own little job to do? Well, simply flooding your system with more of one type might not actually address the root cause of any imbalances you might have going on.
It could even make things worse, right? Like throwing off the balance even more.
It's possible. In some cases, it might disrupt the existing ecosystem in your gut. It's not just about adding good bacteria, but about ensuring we have the right balance for our individual needs. And everyone's different.
That makes a lot of sense. But how do we figure that out? Is there a way to know what's right for us?
That's where things get even trickier, unfortunately. I mean, you shared a study with me from Israel, and it really highlights this complexity we're talking about. Basically, the study found that in certain situations, for example, after taking a round of antibiotics, certain probiotic supplements could actually slow down the gut's natural recovery.
Oh, wow. See, that's surprising to me. I always thought probiotics were supposed to be helpful after taking antibiotics. Isn't that what we always hear?
That is a very common misconception. And while it's true that probiotics can be beneficial for some people in dealing with antibiotic-associated diarrhea, this study and some others suggest they're not always the best approach and could actually have unintended consequences, especially if someone has a compromised immune system, for example.
So maybe that common phrase we hear, probiotics are good for you, needs an asterisk or two after it.
I think that's a fair assessment. Look, it's all about recognizing that probiotics can be powerful tools, right? But they're tools that we need to use carefully and honestly, ideally, under the guidance of a healthcare professional.
So much good info here. But I'm curious, if we shouldn't be randomly choosing probiotics off the shelf, how do we even approach this whole thing? I mean, should we be talking to our doctors about getting specific tests or something?
It's a great question, and honestly, it kind of leads us to the exciting future of this field. While we're not quite there yet, scientists are working on some really cool tools, analyses that could give us a personalized snapshot of our microbiome.
Wow. So you're saying, like, in the future, we might get recommendations tailored to, like, what our own personal gut situation looks like.
Exactly. Personalized probiotics, almost like, personalized medicine, but for our guts.
That does sound pretty futuristic, like something straight out of a sci-fi movie. But, okay, so while we're waiting for all that cool stuff to be ready, what are some practical things we can do right now to make sure our microbiome is healthy?
Well, the good news is you don't need a fancy lab or anything to start making gut-friendly choices. A lot of it comes down to, honestly, the basics. A diverse, fiber-rich diet.
Okay, so all that talk we hear about gut health at the grocery store, those aisles and aisles dedicated to it, it's actually legit.
There's definitely something to it. Fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, all those prebiotics we were talking about, those are key. They're like, fertilizer for the beneficial bacteria already living it up in your gut.
So I need to make sure I'm feeding the good guys, basically.
Gotcha.
What about fermented foods? Everyone's talking about those these days. Yogurt, sauerkraut, kimchi, all that.
Yeah, those are great too. Naturally rich in probiotics. They're like little probiotic powerhouses.
It's funny how all this old school wisdom, like what our grandparents were eating, is now backed by science, right?
It's true. A lot of traditional diets incorporated these fermented foods, so it makes sense that they probably contributed to a healthier gut microbiome overall.
Fascinating stuff. Okay, before we wrap up, any final words of wisdom for our listeners as they navigate the world of probiotics and gut health?
I think the most important thing to remember is that your gut health, it's not a race, it's a marathon, right? It's a journey, not a destination. There's no one magic bullet for everyone, no one size fits all. Stay curious about it, be an informed consumer, and keep in mind a healthy gut, it thrives on balance, on diversity.
This has been an amazing deep dive. It's really amazing when you think about it, this whole unseen world inside us, working so hard to keep us healthy. And it seems like probiotics, they have the potential to be incredibly helpful, but like any good relationship, it takes a little work, right? Understanding, finding that balance, and maybe incorporating a little more sauerkraut into our diets.
I like the way you think.
This has been an awesome deep dive into this incredible invisible world. Until next time, be good to your gut and keep exploring.